Alrighty, a lot of weird stuff going on today. So, on the FTX front, Caroline Ellison was spotted in some New York City cafe or coffee shop. I'm not sure what they call them these days. You know, it looked like one of those expensive ones. It wasn't like a normal coffee shop. So, not sure if they like that term, or if that's reserved for places where the poors get coffee and donuts. But either way, Miss Ellison was in New York City, not far away, hiding out in Dubai or some other place. She was right there in public where people could take pictures of her and post them on Twitter, or presumably where the DOJ could arrest her. The Southern District of New York was within walking distance, presumably. Yet we've heard nothing about her arrest. Instead, what we've heard is that she's being represented by a Clinton lawyer. A lawyer, or rather a firm in which a Clinton lawyer is one of the partners, or at least somebody high up in there. I'm not sure the exact details. And this woman, I think it was a woman, either way, the Clinton lawyer has referred to Merrick Garland as her wingman. So I think that's enough, at least on the rumor front. None of this is confirmed, other than the fact that Ellison was in New York. It looks pretty darn clear that it was her, and I guess someone was able to interview the barista. And so, as I've been saying about SBF, it appears that Caroline Ellison is under protection. She's got the right people around her, and that she's got connected, high-profile lawyers, not just lawyers who are, like, competent. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for lawyers who are in on the corrupt game and are a part of the regime. That's how you win against the regime, is you co-opt it. You don't fight it. People who just like go out there and think, oh, you know, I've been charged with a crime, but I'm innocent, so I'm going to hire a really good lawyer. That's not how you win in the American justice system. What you need are corrupt lawyers. Lawyers who are so corrupt that they have an in with the regime, and they can massage the charges, get them dismissed or reduced. Has nothing to do with whether you're guilty or innocent. The prosecutors don't care about that. That doesn't factor in to a prosecutor's, metrics or their calculations of what actions they take. So in the case of Caroline Ellison, if she wants to get off, step one, hire a lawyer who's buddy-buddy with Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. And two, you sit down with him and you give him whatever he wants. And if that means, rolling on SBF, that's what she's going to do. Now, it might not mean that. It might be that she and SBF are buddy-buddy, and she's going to make a deal on behalf of both of them. I don't know. As far as I know, SBF is not being represented really by anyone in particular. It could just be that he is that stupid and going all over TV. Frankly, though, I don't think he would make a move without his handlers. So I am not sold on this idea. I know that Zero Hedge and some other people are saying, "Oh my gosh, this is it." Ellison is, she's the first one to flip. SBF is done. I don't know for a fact that they are not on the same side. I see no reason to believe until I hear some evidence that she has turned on him. As far as I'm concerned, this just confirms that she too is under protection. Remember, neither of these people are in prison. And as I've been saying, I don't think that either of them really knew what they were doing or what was going on. I think they were both figureheads. And I think anyone who doesn't see that is either naive or a part of a conspiracy to cover this up. Like, let's say George Stephanopoulos. George Stephanopoulos, I think, knows what's going on here. He is a former Clinton hack. He works in the Clinton White House. I think it's not at all surprising that he was one of the people who got to interview SBF. I still think that the only reason why SBF is out and about doing all these interviews is because his handlers want him to. Because they want him, for some reason, to be the public face of this and to say, I don't know what happened. The guy's not telegenic. He doesn't come across well. He's not charismatic at all. I mean, he's an autistic nerd. That's how he comes across, and not like a nerd who knows what he's talking about. He's not like a savant. Far from it. He seems like a kid who had trouble making friends in school, and isn't good at running a business either. So that's the update on FTX. The other thing that happened that's kind of weird over the weekend was there was a power outage in some county in North Carolina. And so obviously, the logical conclusion to draw here, if there is a power outage across some county in North Carolina, it's totally going to be the Trump supporters who are behind it. I mean, who else would it be? Now, that might sound a little strange to you. Some of you might be thinking, gee, how did you come to that conclusion? If there's a power outage, what does that have to do with Trump? Well, you see, everyone knows that knocking out power stations is a common terrorist tactic used by the far right. Now, I actually didn't know that before this weekend, but I was informed, I was enlightened by our left liberal friends on Twitter, the resist crowd, not like the far left people, the normal clickbait, retweet if you agree, Occupy Democrats type of accounts on Twitter. They all, in unity, with a single voice, concluded that right-wing Trump supporters turned off the power in North Carolina. Now, I'm not sure how effective of a protest tactic that is. I've never heard of anyone doing that as a form of protest. But we're told that the reason that they did it was because there was supposed to be some sort of child drag show, and they were going to protest this. Okay, I follow so far. The right-wingers over the past few months have been protesting child drag shows because, most people until recently didn't know that there was such a thing as child drag shows, and a lot of people find that very offensive. So how do we get to the power going out part? Well, from what we're told, the goal in turning off the power was to stop the drag show from going forward because, of course, without the proper lighting, drag queens don't want to be seen in public because they just look hideous. It's only under certain lights in the right club that has a pretty well-run array of spotlights and stage lighting that a drag queen is willing to appear. And so if the right-wingers cut the power to the entire county, well, then that will stop the drag show from going on, at its single venue. And I guess there was a fear that if the right-wingers only cut the power, at the gay bar and not the entire county, well, then maybe the drag show would be moved to a different building that still had power. And so just to be safe, the right-wingers went down and made sure to knock out power to the entire county. This is the latest that we know based on what I was reading from Brooklyn Dad Defiant and these other accounts. I guess the Krasensteins aren't around anymore. I was trying to see what they had to say on the matter, but so my best sources tell me that the right-wingers had to knock out power to the entire county just to make sure that the drag show couldn't go on. Now, I don't know if they were able to stop the drag show from being moved to a neighboring county. Now, in case you folks haven't been able to catch on, I'm rather skeptical of this version of events. I was trying to look for some kind of evidence that would lead them in this direction. I was trying to look for maybe even mainstream media saying that this was the case. Honestly, I could only find resist libs, and it's pretty funny. If I were a funnier person, I could probably come up with some good jokes about this. Sadly, I'm not. Maybe some of you are, and you'll be able to leave me funny jokes in the comments about it. But I don't know how these sorts of situations, what's going on inside people's heads. I don't know if it's just, like malice and they're trying to seize on whatever they can for clickbait, or if people actually believe this stuff. Obviously, the people retweeting it believe it, but that's because the idea was planted in their head, and they go, oh, well, of course, that confirms my bias. But I mean, the people who just invented this story out of nowhere, what's going on in their heads? I mean, I get that Brooklyn Dad Defiant gets paid a lot of money for his tweets, but again, this is just so creative. I kind of hope that they do more of this, because it's fun to think about the idea. I mean, I would love if they did a whole like anthology television series where every week there was a new sort of a liberal fever dream about a right-wing terrorist attack. Not because I like seeing terrorist attacks on TV, but because I think it would be entertaining to see what sort of stuff they come up with. Because I'm just not that creative of a guy. I could not have thought of this, not in a million years, I don't think. If I were on the ground, if I were plotting a terrorist attack even, and I was thinking to myself, gee, how do I stop this child drag show? It wouldn't occur to me, you know what, let's just knock out power for the whole county. And to put a cherry on top, or I should say maybe to top it all off, that's the actual saying, in some versions of this story, the right-wing terrorists disabled or knocked out the power using assault weapons. So they went down there with their AR-47s and set them to fully semi-automatic and just blew the power station to bits. Now, the last update I saw from the Moore County Sheriff's Office, they said there's no evidence that this was a right-wing terrorist attack trying to stop Drag Queen Story Hour. But the sheriff of Moore County apparently was pictured in 2020. He posed for a picture with a right-wing local activist. So it would seem that the sheriff's department is conspiring with the right-wing terrorists to cover this up. I'm also hearing that the sheriff prayed with the terrorists instead of arresting them, and that the terrorists actually are well known because we all know that the Trumpers did it, and that they have their assault weapons, and he did not take their assault weapons nor arrest them. He declined and said instead that he was going to pray with them. And you know what? As minor as this story is, it's about the power going out in one county, in one state. There are, over 2,000 counties in the United States. I'm going to try and follow this story just because it's so fun and out of nowhere. I want to see how this story ends. And at this point, it would almost be funnier if it turned out to be true. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.